Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Welcome back, friends. Today we are sitting in a dungeon of one of the creepiest places I've ever been, but in a good way. So I had wandered into this shop, I don't even know, maybe a year ago, because I had heard cool things about it. There's all these skulls here. There's this taxidermy. There's like human teeth. So I went, checked it out, thankfully met the owner, and we kind of like talked briefly of, hey, I do this show. This would be a cool thing to do. And kind of forgot about it. And then I was looking at, like, I got to line up guests for my season 12. Who should I interview? And lo and behold, on my Instagram feed pops up this cool picture, the coolest I've ever seen him. And it's because Shelly Mossman took his photo and did this portrait. And I was like, I should hit up not only this gentleman, but then also Shelly. So I just came from Shelly's place. Now I'm in the dungeon of, I'll let you introduce yourself. Who are you and what are you passionate about?
My name's Adam DeJarlais. I'm passionate about collecting in general, mainly natural history. I love all things nature. I love anything and everything about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this place is the basement of 12 Vultures. So if you had to describe 12 Vultures, I know it's hard to describe, but if you had to describe it to people, what is it?
Basically, I like to call it a curiosity shop. A lot of people generalize as oddities, but yes, things can be odd. But I think it's really something that drives people want to ask questions.
Yeah.
In other words, they might walk in and see something. You mentioned human teeth and things like that. Well, where'd you get them? How'd you find it? Who'd it come from? It's just all these different elements of all those things. How, why, what, when, where.
So what makes you want to do that in the first place? As far as like even giving the stories behind it, you're like a historian, also a tour guide at the same time, but not of like a temple of this cool, weird place.
Sure. I think for me, it's what I like to discover, whether I'm traveling, whether I'm in Minneapolis. If I stumble across a place, I absolutely love it when I go in somewhere, and it's not about feeling uncomfortable, but I see things that I've never seen before, so I want to know more about it. So I wanted to create a place that I can, when people walk in, I can see that on their faces.
Yeah.
They're intrigued. Even if they may not like the things in here, they still wanna ask all the questions, and they have fun with it.
Is one of your favorite things the freedom of just like finding whatever it is you like and then putting it in the shop? Because there's no rules or guidelines to this type of thing.
That's a huge part of it, I'm in a very fortunate position, and I feel like I've worked hard to get myself here. I'm able to literally buy things that I do like or love, and that translates into sales. People do like it as well. I can honestly say there's not one thing in my shop that I'm like, I don't want that, but I had to get that because people want to see that when they come here.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. Me owning a skateboard shop is the same way. I was like a kid in the candy store.
Yeah.
I used to call it Christmas every day because I'm constantly opening up boxes of things that I wish were mine, and they're temporarily mine.
Yeah.
Like my skate shop felt like my second bedroom, living room situation where it's like, cool, I have all these cool boards to display, and I get to enjoy all this stuff, and then it goes to its next owner. But I still got to personally pick out every single thing. And I still do. April will be 10 years, and I still pick out every single thing. And it's because I have to pay for it. So I'm still picking out every single thing that comes through the shop. And I love that. So let's get back to a little bit of the beginning, because when you were 10, you weren't like trying to carry teeth in a store. That wasn't the vision. But you collected. Were you like a big Pokemon collector? Tell me what childhood was. Are you from Minnesota even?
Yeah. So I grew up in a city called Elk River. A little bit northwest of the cities here, Twin Cities, Minneapolis, and is outlying rural suburb, I guess you could call it. So I grew up, cliche, I don't want to date myself too much, but pre-cell phone, I played outside a lot, right? And I loved being in the woods. I loved to find things. I loved to catch frogs, and maybe once in a while we'd find a skull or something like that.
Did you live like kind of on land like that, like farm kind of out?
We only had a couple couple acres. I want to say acre and a half maybe. So not huge, but we had some woods, and then there was plenty of space to explore. There were open fields and other small forests around and things like that.
Cool.
And big cross-country ski trails, here and there. So, I mean, it was hours and days, weeks, months, full summers, where I'd just barely be home. So I came to, I guess, just kind of really learn to love discovering things that way, especially in the outdoors.
What was the first thing that you started collecting? Were you like the pet rock collector?
Rocks were big. I had a box full of rocks that I remember every time I like rearrange my room or clean my closet, I'd think, man, this box keeps getting heavier. But anywhere I would go, I would find a rock. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was like, okay, I got to get out of the car and I got to find my rock. It wasn't that conscious of a decision. It was, I would always notice a rock and I'd think, that's cool. That's something I can take with me. Hopefully I didn't break too many laws like national parks and such like that, by taking something I shouldn't. But at the same time, I wasn't looking for diamonds or anything like that. Yeah. But, just different geology was interesting to me, different layers of rocks and things like that. Anyways, I had a box full and I would remember like, oh, this is from the parking lot at the visitor center of, Cape Cod or something like that. So
did you travel a lot when you were younger?
Not a whole lot, growing up. I mean, we'd usually like go up to northern Minnesota one weekend a year. We took one big family vacation out to the East Coast. Other than that, I went to a few select places. I didn't really. First time I went to Europe, I believe I was 17.
Oh, okay. With the whole family, or what was it?
That was with my mother, my sister, and my 4 aunts.
Cool.
Yeah. Long story short, my sister studied abroad, so
gotcha.
We were all going there to visit her.
What part of Europe?
Paris. In France, yep.
Did that have an influence on you wanting to discover like much older things than what we find in America?
100%. That was my first experience, I'd say. There's plenty of history, natural history. I mean, millions of years of natural history. But as far as like man-made and architecture and just different cultures and societies, that was my first experience of it really sunk in. Like, this building has been here since the medieval era, and that just kind of smacked me in the face. Like, how's that possible?
Right.
It really sunk in. Of course, I'd seen it in books, but to see it in person was a whole different thing. And that's actually one of the first cities in Paris where I walked into a shop, and it felt I was 17, as I mentioned. It felt like walking into a candy store as a 10-year-old. It was just excitement and wanting to touch everything and wanting to know more, and the stuff was, honestly, I don't remember the things being that interesting. It's just the way it was presented.
Yeah. Which we'll get to that a little bit later, but that does have perceived value is a very real thing. How you display things, it matters a lot. I know what you mean though. Like, I think the best way to grow as a person is by traveling, and specifically internationally, because just the people around us, they say like the 5 people you spend most time with, that's who you're like, right? So it's like they're the ones who dictate how you view the world, just because that's what you're exposed to all the time. But that's the same thing in your city. Obviously, it grows more as you go more out in your state. It goes more if you go around the country. But when you go somewhere totally different, like I've been to Asia twice, Europe 3 times. I've been around, I think I've been to 10 countries or something. But every time you go to somewhere that's totally different, you see what their lifestyle is like. And you go, oh, I understand why these things of life are valuable to them. And these other things that in America we value, they don't at all. And now that kind of helps put it in perspective. And as you do that more, you can kind of take bits and pieces of the way other people live and kind of curate it to your own lifestyle to see what works the best for you. And for me, those have been like awesome life lessons.
Yeah. No, that's amazing and totally true. It's first time to France, and other times I've been there, I don't speak French. And it's it gets tiring by the end of the trip. I mean, now everybody speaks English in most European countries, but when I first went, my brain was zapped just because the language barrier, trying to fudge my way through, okay, how do I even say it, or how do I convey what I want?
Yeah.
And things like that. And just that alone, realizing just the massive difference in that communication.
Yeah, that just happened to me. I was in Mexico for like a week and a half, like 3 weeks ago. And first time traveling internationally that no one really spoke English, or at least they didn't even try.
Yeah.
Which would, everywhere I've gone, like at least in the tourist areas, they do because they don't want to lose the transaction.
Yeah.
So they learn what they need to for specifically that conversation. But no one did there at all, which was surprising to me. And that's me being entitled, like, well, you should know my language. But it was just like surprising that I couldn't order food or like anything. It was really surprising. So anyways, getting back to, you started traveling. What did you want to do then when you were 17? When did, like, what was your goal with your life at that point?
I really didn't have a big goal. I wasn't very successful in school. After high school, I worked in restaurants. While in high school, I worked in restaurants. I started as a dishwasher, worked my way up into a line cook situation. And then literally I stayed in kitchens as a cook and a chef till my mid-30s.
Wow.
So 16, 17 years in kitchens, yeah.
Wow. What made you change direction then and want to start going down a different path? Because it's easy to fall into a hole like that where you start not making a lot of money by any means, but you're used to what the living situation looks like and it's dependable and like this works. It's not a huge leap of faith. What made you want to walk away from that?
In restaurants, I had so much fun. I met so many great people that I still know and talk to, built great relationships. The social life, was amazing compared to like a music scene almost or something.
Yeah, totally.
There's always somebody willing to hang out and have fun. But by around the time, I'd say right around the time I turned 30, it kind of became, I started feeling more like a cog in the wheel, working extremely hard to make someone else money while making the same paycheck. And I got paid well, I got compensated well, but and I did a really good job at what I did, but I wanted something more than just punch the clock, get a paycheck, punch the clock, get a paycheck. And we can get more into it later, but my mother, when about the time I was out of high school, she had started to branch off from her job and get more into reselling old items and antiques and such like that. And seeing her start her own business and realizing, like, hey, maybe I can segue into something like that myself, that was kind of the catalyst to say, I have a way out, I have a means, a resource close to me that I can lean on, I guess, for insight and knowledge into that, So there's a bit of a transition and overlap, I guess, of kind of experimenting a little bit, like, hey, can I buy stuff and sell it, and kind of over the course of 2013, I quit my final restaurant job and took a couple $1,000s and said, okay, I'm going to see where it goes, and thankfully it bloomed.
Wow. Yeah. It's when you have somebody that's like within reach, such as like a parent or a relative or a friend who does something like that, it makes you realize that it's, very possible. Yeah. What kind of stuff, you said vintage antiques, where was she getting these things from? What kind of stuff was it?
Like, anything, yard sales, garage sales, a lot of furniture, just a lot of home decor. I guess that was back in the 90s, 1990s, not 1890s. It was more like the cottagey, shabby chic was big, up and coming at that time. Yeah. So she was, picking up a lot of furniture, painting a lot of furniture. She'd buy some, call them market items, wholesale items, like, cool looking wall clocks and things like that. And she'd make, wreaths out of dried grapevines. And
Where was she selling them?
stuff.
Like flea markets?
So, funny story. She literally sold on the porch of our house, and she
No
called,
excuses. You
she-
have a space.
She called her shop the porch.
Oh, God.
And then eventually, we can get more into the story if you want, but eventually she moved from Elk River to Buffalo, Minnesota, and bought an entire building, the old post office building, old historical building, kind of like something I'm in here, and owns her own shop. She still calls it the porch.
Oh, she still has it. Mm-hmm. Wow. Apple didn't fall far from the tree.
20
Cool.
some years, yeah.
Cool. What was the first thing that you remember buying and flipping?
I don't even, I honestly can't say. I used to buy, I love old stuff, and it's always kind of been a way of, but seeing something that I like that I think, hey, somebody might buy this. And I'd buy anything that I thought I could flip for a few bucks, right?
Yeah.
So I would go to estate sales like on the last day of the estate sale where they're like, hey, this stuff has to go. We're going to give you a good price if you buy a lot, right?
Yeah.
So, I'd buy like milk glass dishes and just old decrepit furniture that I thought I might be able to fix up. So it was probably like just some old nightstand or something from somebody's relative's house.
How did you get rid of all that? Because this was before Facebook Marketplace?
Yeah. So actually, I started selling. My mom offered me a space at her shop.
Oh, cool.
So I started selling there. I started offering help to her. Obviously, I've got a couple muscles, so I did a lot of the heavy lifting and stuff for her around the shop.
Yeah.
Her big thing is refreshing things every month.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, it's like moving more than a household of furniture every month. So for her to do that on her own was tough. So I helped her with that. I had my little space there, and then that kept growing, and eventually got an offer to sell at another shop here in the cities. So
Wow. Yeah, the thing is these things are available. People just have to get out of their own way of thinking like it has to be a certain way. What I found is with successful people, and I'm not talking about financially successful, but just successful people, is they figure out what they want to do, and they just know they're gonna do it. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of if they can do it. It's a matter of how they can do it.
I can relate to that.
And if you can change that mindset and go, well, this is going to happen either way. Mm-hmm. It's just we have to move direction to make it happen, but it will happen. Mm-hmm. I think it becomes a lot more possible.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And there's obstacles too for whoever, whyever, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying anybody can do this.
Sure.
But I was in a unique position. I don't have children. Like I didn't have anything holding me down to stop me from going, what do I need a full-time job for?
Right.
Totally. I'm going to risk it. And you know what? If I don't make very much money doing it, I can always go back to the kitchen, but I gotta know.
Yeah.
But to your point too, like it was never really a matter of what happens next. I knew I had my fallback, but it's not like I had an escape plan ready.
Right.
Well,
if you have an escape plan ready or a plan B, you're going to end up going with plan B.
Sure.
Just because
what's
that's the easier
path least resistance, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're going to do. And I know like this is coming from two white guys, like privilege, and I totally understand that. And I definitely come from privilege, like middle class family, and that contributed to me being able to like take the risks and stuff that I did. But I would say if you're looking for an excuse, you will always find an excuse. It doesn't matter what situation you're in. I understand some people are in situations where it's like literally impossible. I do understand that. And the world like isn't a fair place. I get it. But if you look for an excuse, you're always going to find one. I could have found plenty of excuses too. But if you go with the mindset of, no, this is what I want to do. There's obstacles in the way. I'm going to do it either way. You will find a path. There is a path to do it for almost anybody, at least in this country. You alluded to you were making enough money flipping stuff that you eventually like got some kind of a job. What was this job that you quit doing the food? Was it working for yourself 100% at that point? Were you picking for other people? Were you traveling the country going in barns? Like what was the situation when you quit?
Literally I stayed around Minneapolis, St. Paul. I'd go to every single estate sale I could find, whether it was listed on a online database or Craigslist or whatnot. I would, talk to the estate sale companies themselves, and ask like, hey, like where else do I find things, and stuff like that. And it just kind of kept growing. I didn't become a picker, so to speak. I don't like to find things specifically for people. So say somebody comes in and they say, I want, I'm looking for a dresser for my bedroom. It doesn't make me want to go find a dresser for them. I'm not interested. I'd rather find something that, a la, who's that? Marie Kondo. Does it spark joy? I want a little twinkle to come off of it when I look at it,
Sure.
Something to tell me like, you should buy that.
Well, the luster disappears after a while, no matter what you do, right? So at first, a pocket watch could be super cool, but then eventually you're like, I need something more. Yep. Well, you get crazy stuff. How did you continue to like, I don't know, satiate that need to find something more unique? And when did you like get out of just estates around here? You're not finding buffalo heads at estate sales.
True story. So I'd say it was about I'm trying to factor in how long I've had the shop, because it's really been fast forward since I opened. So about 7-8 years ago now, I shifted focus from kind of, like I talked about, buying anything and everything that I felt I could flip and make a few dollars on, kind of shifting to like, hey, I bought that box of white-tailed deer antlers and people really loved them. I like antlers,
Sure.
I want to find more of that. So it's something where once I started looking for more of it and that became my focus, it was almost like I started tripping over the stuff. None of it was free. People didn't come to me right away, but once I had that dedication of what I knew I wanted to look for, I kind of cracked open a network of people, you could say. That was kind of a time where social media was just starting to really explode, where everybody was using it.
This was 2014-ish?
That was, 2014, okay. 2015, right around there. So, talking to some people online in other states, hey, what do you do? Oh, you sell that, maybe they have a different, like people in Montana, coyotes there for a coyote skull, dime a dozen. Where in Minnesota, maybe they're not as plentiful. There's coyotes here, don't get me wrong, but you're not going to find as many skulls or as many trading posts, so to speak. So once I started meeting people outside of the Minnesota network here, it kind of became obvious what I could find and what I could pull from, and then branching out from there into international, European market, Asian market, and stuff like that. Really discovering, like, I really, like you said, things that luster starts to go away. I really like to find something I haven't had before.
Sure.
And it doesn't need to be like the sarcophagus of King Tut.
Yeah.
It could be something as simple as a deer species that I didn't really know existed until I sourced that skull of it. And then that's kind of my entrance to the rabbit hole. I have this, now I need to know everything about it.
What was the last thing that you bought that you were really, really excited about? Just curious.
Oh boy. Hold on. Just let me remember what I brought in. Taxidermy white wolf, which the photo you saw that Shelly did. Yeah, she did the photo with the white wolf that I bought. That was a pretty awesome animal for me. I grew up a dog lover, and like the sheer size of a wolf, you don't really get it till you're standing in front of it. And I'd been to, like, there's a wolf sanctuary, I think up in Ely, Minnesota, I want to say, maybe somewhere up north. Anyway, so I've seen wolves, in the semi-wild.
Yeah.
So I was aware of their size, but that was a pretty cool purchase. That was one I was really, really keyed up on.
Where did that one come from? I mean, white wolves you only see in movies. Like, I've never seen a white wolf.
So I'll drop a little bit of knowledge here. So I bought it at auction here locally in Minnesota. They had it listed as a timber wolf, which was wrong. Any wolf with the coloring that this one has will be one of the you could blanket it as one of the subspecies of the gray wolf. That's the Arctic wolves. And now there's probably 30 different subspecies that go into all those Arctic wolves.
Sure.
But so I'm not sure if it's a true, Northern Canada Arctic wolf, maybe a Greenland wolf, maybe it's from Alaska. So far north Arctic Circle is where that one's from.
That's cool. See, mine's not nearly as cool, but I used to sell jewelry for a living. Sure. I was the assistant manager of Hellsberg Diamonds, and I worked at a couple of K jewelers before that. So one thing I love to do is go to pawn shops. And it's just because I know more about the jewelry than the people there the vast majority of the time. So for me, it's like a little treasure hunting, because a lot of things are overpriced and whatever. But maybe once every 20 times I go into one, I find something where I'm like, this should cost a lot more than this. This is dope. You guys don't realize how cool this is.
Yeah.
And so slowly collect jewelry for way less money than I think people realize I've spent on it. Just because and I find a lot of joy in that, just looking at it, especially when I was out in New York City. There's just so much unique stuff there, even without wanting to buy anything. It's just like all this stuff that I can find is just so cool to me. So before you opened this place, were you selling for somebody else, or was it just you? And what was that situation?
So before I opened here, I sold at a shop called Hunt and Gather, and they're over in South Minneapolis.
What kind of shop is that?
So that shop there's one owner. Her name's Christy. Great lady. Learned a lot from her. She owns the building, and I mean, probably definitely the hardest worker there, has inventory there as well. And then at the time I sold there were 15 of us all together. So you could call it an antique mall, but the way things are displayed there, the way things just presented in general, I mean, it's just a sensory overload, I guess, but it's meant to be that way. There's, bohemian, bright colors, stacked to the ceiling, precarious looking stacks of things all over the place. And that to me was a good place to learn how to really crack out of my shell.
Yeah. Were you doing that like consignment, or like how did you get involved?
So I was one of the dealers, and I think maybe it was last segment I alluded to. I had a space at my mother's shop in Buffalo there, and then a couple of the shoppers there, Pat and Scott. They sold at Hunt and Gather, and Scott had approached me about, hey, would you ever think about selling at this other shop? I'm like, I don't know if I got what it takes, this and that. Where they're like, well, you should go talk to the owner. And I talked to the owner like maybe month and a half later, and rented a spot in the lower level. They called it the bomb shelter, because it was this little tucked away room, low ceiling, not too different than the basement we're in here, but the walls were painted white. It was clean.
Sure.
And didn't know how it would go. And like my first month there, I was like, I got to get more stuff. Like stuff was just clipping out of there.
Yeah.
And moved up from there. I ended up going from about 150 square feet to having close to 400 square feet there.
Wow.
in the main level of the shop. So I worked hard, and we did a lot of collective things where we'd, display a lot of everybody's stuff together, but we'd all have our own respective space that we rented out, and then we would all work certain work days.
Oh, cool. To kind of cover everybody.
Yeah. Each dealer had their own work days to work. So we covered the shop. They're open 7 days a week. Great foot traffic there, but it became apparent that I was outgrowing the amount of space. The rent was high, rightfully so. I mean, I was hitting sales like nobody's business. Foot traffic's great. But I kind of thought like, all right, I want to focus even more than I am right now. And that was the catalyst to think about opening my own place.
Wow. Yeah. How did pretty much all the sales come from that foot traffic initially? And how did you slowly build a clientele outside of specifically that? Because obviously one person sees it, right? And you have a conversation, and now that person knows who you are.
Yep.
They're curious about whatever else you get. But did that translate into you having clientele around the country and stuff? Or like,
I don't sell a lot online.
Really? See, that was another question of mine, was how much percentage, if you had to guess. But I mean, shipping, I suppose, is just a nightmare. It's just surprising this many people in Minneapolis want this eclectic of things.
It's kind of great. I do not like selling things online of this nature. It's just it's one of a kind things when you're dealing with like an animal skull, and it's a lot of question answering because it's things that are unique. And maybe something someone has never seen in person before, so it's tough to articulate, this is what you're buying, just trust me.
Right.
Like there's a lot of scammers on the internet and such, so
and it eliminates the personal experience, right? Which is like such a part of wanting to do it in the first place.
Yeah, it does, and I like that connection to it, but I'd say about 1% of my sales are online.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
If that.
People, they think just because online shopping's so big that like that's the move. And skateboards are expensive to ship, and you can buy them anywhere online because I don't have super unique stuff in that kind of way.
Sure.
The only things that I sell online are my own branded things because I made them, or I designed and had them made, or whatever the situation is. And they're usually just from personal friends that like were really good customers at my store that moved away.
Yeah.
And they just specifically want to support the shop. So I'll ship 4 boards out to Colorado at one time to one person, like that type of thing. But for me, it just was like really the reason I did it was because I liked talking to the people. And it became like, I tried to do online for a pretty brief amount of time, but it was such a chore and I just really didn't like it. For me, it felt like a job.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I doing this? Yeah. It just wasn't, there was no joy to it at all. And it was like, I didn't get into this for the money anyways, just because I could make a little bit more money if I did this. It just wasn't appealing to me at all.
Sure.
So when you decided to get this place, it was because you were outgrowing your other space at that point. But you had told me off mic earlier that it was during the pandemic that you opened. Did you get like a sweet deal on it? Was the pandemic part of the reason where you're like, oh, this is my opportunity in my window?
Special on rent,
yeah,
right?
Right. So like what was the situation?
So let's see. Okay, so rewind to about late 2019. Probably I'd say late fall, October-ish, November. Probably October. My wife, Laura, and I, we talk a lot. We each have our own business. And
what's her business? Just curious.
She runs a supervised visitation center for child protection services.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, that's a lot to unwrap.
Yeah.
But I had kind of said like, maybe should I look at opening my own space? She's like, you definitely should. I'm like, nah, it's too much work.
Yeah.
Too much. What am I thinking? I got it good. I'm paying rent. Somebody else worries about the building. So she says, just look. Doesn't hurt to look, So I found this spot here where I'm at now. I want to say early December 2019. So maybe there was a couple whispers of some weird virus, but nowhere near people saying, shut down the borders, and then talked to the landlord, got the ball rolling. Thankfully, we each kind of drug our feet a little bit, and it got to be shutdown time. And the landlord, Chris, he's like, well, if you'd be interested, here's what I can do for a monthly rent. And, hey, if you move in May 1st, then I'll give you 2 months to set up, take your time. Obviously,
cool.
The world shut down. So thankfully, he wanted more of a grassroots type business. He didn't want a Subway moving in or, and just a, cell phone plate, nothing commercial like that, So he was happy to have someone with something unique. And July 10th, I opened, and I had a pretty modest goal. And I was hitting those goals right away and started exceeding those goals right away. And the wheel started rolling, and it's only picked up speed since.
Well, I mean, that's an awesome thing. I will say the funny part is when someone says, it doesn't hurt to look. You're starting something. If you look, you're going to end up doing something.
Yeah.
The thing is, you don't know what you want until you've seen that thing that you want. Now you can't stop thinking about this thing that you want. So like, if you're not ready to buy a house, don't look at houses, but that's all it takes though. It's like, that's the perfect example to show what little momentum what little bit it takes to really get things going. Just making one small thing, all of a sudden you're like, well, okay, now I'm the motion is set. I can't not do it now because I've dreamed of the space because I looked at it. Now it's in my mind that I have to have it. So it's going to happen. So that's why I try to explain to people, anyone that's trying to do your own thing, you just have to take one thing. One small step is all it's going to take for the ball to start going. Yeah. It's just you're sitting there thinking about it too much. Sure. Stop thinking about it. Sure. Just like do one little thing. If you want to start painting, just draw something. And even though you know it sucks, you're going to feel like, well, I could do that better tomorrow. So you end up doing it better tomorrow because you started that thing. So whatever that thing is, buying and selling. Look at all the kids that are thrifting now that you inspired. That's why thrifting's so big now. Sure. But you were at the beginning of it. But that's awesome. So you said the ball's rolling almost too fast. Things are moving here. Things are going crazy. What's where are you at with things?
For me, I'd say so. The first couple of years, everything was totally manageable by myself. Foot traffic, pandemic, people were still sleepy, slow to get back out. I'm only open Thursdays through Sundays, so I have the other 3 days to finish up loose ends, family, life, whatever. But I'd say that first 2 years was fine. In that third year, it got to be where I'm here by myself. I didn't even have a chance to stop, grab a drink of water, go to the bathroom. It was people from the time I opened the door till the time I closed the door. So about a little over about 2 months ago now, I decided to bring on a couple staffed employees. It's to the point now where I'm figuring out what that is. Obviously, I worked in other settings, not retail, but, I worked in kitchens. I was higher level, chef, had people under me. So I understand what it is to have employees, but it's different with my own business.
Yeah. Well, it's something so personal.
Yeah. So it's only been a couple of months, so it's still figuring out what all that is. Trying to put a pin in what are the duties of the people that work here beyond customer service, because there's not always somebody in the shop, shopping. So so that ball is, like you said, exceedingly rolling exceedingly fast, and I'm trying to maintain the same level of excitement that I have without burning out, and supplying similar goods, finding new goods and things like that, keeping the shop what it is, as an organism.
Yeah. So, how things are just, we talked about this briefly. The idea of perceived value is something that I've had to explain to people, like in my own profession quite a few times. And what that means is, to anyone that doesn't immediately know, is how something's displayed affects the value of it. Right? So even if it's the same two things, if you have the same two cups, you can have one of a beggar on the street, on the sidewalk selling it, and you can have one in a ceramic store, whatever, same exact cup displayed. Now somebody will walk up and in the beggar go, oh, $10 seems expensive. And it's just based on the situation, right? Regardless of what it is. Even if they know it's the same thing, they're going to go, that seems expensive. Now they go into the other store where everything's bright, clean. Clearly money has gone into building this place to be this experience, the music, the employee, and the person brings up the cup and goes, this thing's awesome. I love it for these reasons. It's $20. And people will pay $20 and actually feel better about the purchase, even though they paid more than they would have if they paid $10 off the street for the same item. Now, they don't necessarily know it's the same, but I'm just saying if you had the same, that's the difference because of what goes into it.
Presentation.
It really makes a huge difference. I learned this when I was working in jewelry, right? Because I understood why things cost different at different places or whatever. But if you can take that skill set and bring it into when you're opening a business, there's a reason you want to display things the way you display them. How has that affected your store, and how do you specifically try to set it up to build that intrigue, to build that perceived value with people?
Part of it is with with the items I have. Some of it, a little bit of it, is just showing people what to do with it.
Sure.
You know, for say a piece of taxidermy, it's as simple as hanging it on a wall. Where a good example would be like a mandible bone or a full jawbone of like a deer. You know, I have stacks of those from European roe deer, and if I just have them in a stack, people are like, "That's neat. What would I do with it?" Well, if I put a photo into that and use it as an easel, the light bulb goes off for people. So it's a little bit about showing people what can I do with it. The other part of it is showing people how they can have this fit in with their decor in their house, or whether inside, outside, wherever they're going to put it. How does this make sense with my other stuff? So trying to find a juxtaposition of like, you know, I didn't think these two things would make sense together, but they do.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's going to be hard with having employees. Even if you teach them really well, it's because when you bought that item in the first place, you were really excited about it, and you wanted to learn about it and know all this stuff about this thing that you're excited about. This person comes in, they have the experience. Part of the reason that the value is there, rather than them buying something on eBay they don't know about. They didn't know about the thing either way.
Sure.
But they come in, they see this thing, and you're excited, and you show them because you genuinely are excited.
Yeah.
That excitement is infectious. They like it because you were excited. That's part of why they're excited about it.
Yeah,
and then they go home and they're stoked.
Right? Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But how do you transition into having employees being able to do that? Obviously, that's a big challenge to provide the same type of experience.
Yeah. And for me, it's just kind of trying to foster the attitude of just engage people. It's not, you know, we'll just use the cup example. It's not going up to someone and romancing this cup.
Right.
Like, you need to buy this cup. It's as simple as saying, like, how you doing today? Have you been in the shop before? You know, are you local to the city? Did you travel here? And I talking with one of my employees, I'm like, it might seem scripted, but like, it's genuine. I want to know if people came a long way, if it was a destination, and that sparks more conversation. Then if they find something they like, hey, what do you got there?
Yeah.
You know, and I can tell them, this is where it came from. This is what I know about it, you know, and it just goes from there, you know, and, oh, you have a domestic cat skull. Oh, well, I got a couple mountain lions and a bobcat over here. Let me show you the other cat skulls. Not to upsell.
Right.
I would do it in the reverse situation. Oh, you have the mountain lion. Let me show you this domestic cat skull. You know,
right.
Just to make sure. I try and relate, you know, because that's what I appreciate when I go somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just someone to be kind.
Totally. And I'll admit, it's a little bit of a ego thing for me of like, I'm just curious how you know about me. Like I've put in a lot of work, but I'm curious. Did you find a review on the internet? Did somebody I knew that like I'm friends with? It's so cool because I've had people drive a long ways because I'm the only skateboard shop for 90 miles. The next closest is here in Minneapolis, right? So there's nothing in the area. And that's the closest one because otherwise if you go east, you go way further. If you go south or north, you go way further. So people drive. Somebody the other day drove like 4 hours or something to come to the shop. And so for me, I'm like, how did you hear about me 4 hours away?
Yeah,
this is
it's
pretty
amazing
rad.
though, right?
Yeah,
Like,
it's super cool. And that's part of what builds those relationships with those people is I'm so genuinely thankful and stoked that they cared about what I did that much that I'm stoked on them and I want to know about them because like you're an interesting person to me. The fact that you cared about this makes me care about what you do.
Yeah.
What is it that you do? Why are you here? Like, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
What have you, so it's hard to build a business these days in general. For one, commercial real estate's like impossible. People, for us, when you're already kind of in the zone, it's kind of great that people no longer want to go to malls and stuff and they want something unique, right? But that also is making it more sought after for this real estate. Everyone wants to be in a downtown place. Everyone wants to have their own like little one-off thing, so it's really tough. What are the resources if somebody else wanted to open their own thing? What are the couple steps and resources that you think are the most valuable that could be helpful to them?
Oh boy, I'd say it really depends on what you're selling, but I try and keep things in perspective as far as I don't even know.
Sure.
You know, I mean, get your ducks in a row. It's tough to find resources. It's gotten easier, I think, since COVID. Resources for small businesses and things like that. A lot more people are starting their own LLCs. But really try and figure out what all the costs are going to be before you dive into it. You know, not to scare people away, but don't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
Don't think like, I'll tackle that when I get to it. I'm probably the biggest offender of that, by the way. But kind of realize what it is and make sure that whatever you have is marketable to the masses, I guess.
Yeah, well, and so it's just a lot of it's having business sense. The thing is so many things are going to come up that are going to be fires that you have to put out that you're not expecting.
Yeah.
So you don't want to put off anything you can address now, you want to. And so you don't want to scare people away. Like I said, it's just taking one step to get things moving.
Yeah.
But the other thing for me is just having a little bit of patience and understanding that, like, just because you are excited to share this thing and put this thing out to the world, don't do it until it's ready.
Yeah.
However long that may take you. And I'm not saying wait to make an album for 30 years until you're the best musician in the world, but like you need to wait until it is actually ready and put things and build things to be the best that you can in that moment. Your best 2 years from now is going to be better than your best now, but you need to be able to get it to be whatever your best is at that point in time. When it's at that point in time, I think you'll just kind of know that you're ready.
Yeah.
What's one of the biggest mistakes that you've made that you learned from that taught you something like, I'm not going to do that again?
I guess I don't call me stupid, but I kind of ignore that side of it. I haven't made a big enough mistake, I'd say, that it burns.
Sure.
You know, I try, extremely hard just to not grow too quickly, do things with intent, very well thought out. And I'm not saying in any way that I haven't made a mistake. Don't get me wrong. But I guess probably opening the shop and then moving another 25 minutes away from it.
Oh, God.
That's my biggest mistake.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah,
you personally moved? You
personally,
mean?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's a little out of your control sometimes. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things. One, any mistake that I've made, and I'm going to blame it on other people because, I mean, it's my own fault, but I am going to blame it on other people as well, it's when I've taken advice from other people.
Okay.
Instead of listening to my own gut on something. I'm like, well, you probably know more about this than I do, so I'm going to take your opinion. Well, the thing is that person, regardless of how much they know a lot about their experience and how that might relate to what you're doing. So even if they're more of an expert, they've owned a business for 20 years or whatever, they weren't there through the entire process of what your business is. So they're more knowledgeable for some things. You're the only one that knowledgeable about your own business. Sure. Nobody knows more about it than you do. So your judgment's probably better. And anytime that I've listened to my gut and I was wrong, which I can't even think of a time that I was, honestly, but anytime that I have, then it's only myself that I'm like, oh man, I should have done that. And I get over it so fast that I can't remember any offhand because it doesn't haunt me.
Sure.
It's always been times where I trusted somebody else's judgment and they probably wanted what was best for me. So I'm not throwing them under the bus that way, but I didn't trust my own gut and then found afterwards, I should have trusted myself. Yeah. Now I'm kicking it. And then I think about those ones. Those are the ones that stick with me for way, way, way too long.
Yeah. I think I internalize some things maybe when it comes to customer. I don't get bad customer feedback, but like I'll overanalyze something like, oh, should I have handled this situation differently? Did I rub that person the wrong way? Overthinking, I think, is my biggest error.
Sure. Yeah.
But also protects me at the same time.
Yeah. So. But the other part, I mean, overthinking, you should be, critical of yourself, not in a point where it's like causing you emotional distress, but you should be overly critical about things because that's how you learn from them, understand how to move forward in different situations. Yeah. But the one thing you can't let get in your way is, it's another thing I say a lot, but the most successful people are the ones who identify the right opportunities and don't hesitate on those opportunities. Because if they're really good opportunities, they will be gone. as you become more successful, more and more people will present you with opportunities. It's
True.
just most of them aren't actually what's best for you.
True.
Regardless of what they're trying to sell you on, they're not what's best for you.
Yep.
But if you see the right one, such as like a new space that's just perfect right now.
Sure.
If you hesitate, somebody else is going to take it.
True.
You got to be able to like sit there and go, no, this is the right move,
Yeah.
and then be willing to take the risk. But obviously do your due diligence to make sure, but you can't wait too long. Hesitation can really crush you in this business.
True. Yeah. Financially with the business, on that point, I've always just poured everything back in the shop bucket, so to speak, as far as finances go. And thankfully that's always translated into success.
Yeah.
So I haven't made mistakes on that end, but I've put myself pretty far out there to a point of, going, what did I just do?
Yeah. Well,
but
one of the funny things is like when you work for somebody else, a lot of times your paycheck is coming and you're like, okay, I'm going to go buy this TV, or I'm going to buy whatever this thing is that like I'm excited about for whatever reason.
Yeah.
When you work for yourself, at least in the type of things that we do, maybe I'm sure in a lot of people's careers that are entrepreneurs, I get excited about the things that I buy for my business, though.
Sure.
It's the same type of excitement, or more so, like buying new cameras for this. Like it's really just an investment, so that way now people can see 3 angles of video, and that cost me a lot of money, and it was for my business, but I still got this same personal spark as I would have if I bought, I don't know, rims for my car, which I would never do. I have a horrible car, but I'm just saying, like, whatever that personal thing is, investing it in that way, you still get that joy, which is part of the reason that I don't need as much money personally to live, is because my expenses are so much related to what the business is, because it's so intricate, it's so integrated into what my life is. Like this as an example, right? Like I came here today, my expenses were obviously the stuff that went into this. And then the gas, and this took my whole day or whatever, and it was my work, but like this is a pretty dope work day. You know what I mean? Like I'm definitely not upset about it.
You take a lot away from it, personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, dude, this has been an absolute joy. I appreciate you having me. I'm gonna have to try to make sure I post some of the stuff from your store so people don't just think like this is what it is.
Come to my shop.
Yeah, this is the restricted area, the backstage that I got to go to, so everyone can be jealous of the basement. But thank you so much. I wish you all the success in the world. We'll have to catch up on another episode of the show in a few years and see where everything's at.
No, thank you, Chris. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.